Every religion on earth, no matter how different, no matter how ancient, no matter how far apart the people who created it, shares something almost nobody talks about. Not a god, not an afterlife, not a moral code. Something much simpler than any of those things. Something that existed in the human brain long before the first temple was built, long before the first prayer was spoken, long before anyone had a word for the sacred at all. And the strangest part, nobody invented it on purpose. Religion didn't begin with a prophet or a vision or a moment of divine revelation. It began with a completely ordinary human brain doing exactly what it was built to do, solving a problem, the same problem it solved every single day for 1,000,000 years before anyone thought to give the solution a name. Understanding what that problem was changes everything you think you know about why religion exists, and why it will probably never disappear. The human brain is not built for truth, it is built for survival, and survival for most of human history required one skill above everything else: detecting patterns, specifically, detecting patterns that might kill you. A rustle in the grass, a shadow moving at the edge of vision, a sound that doesn't fit the background noise of the forest. The brain that noticed these things and assumed a predator was responsible survived. The brain that waited for more evidence did not. Researchers call this hyperactive agency detection, the tendency to interpret ambiguous or random events as being caused by an intentional agent, something with a mind, something with a purpose, something that wants something. Your brain is running this system right now. It runs constantly in the background, looking for minds behind events. When you hear a sound in an empty house, your brain doesn't conclude random settling of wood. It asks who is there. When you see a face in the clouds, or a figure in the shadows, or eyes in the patterns of bark on a tree, your brain isn't malfunctioning. It is doing exactly what 400,000 years of survival pressure built it to do. Finding minds everywhere was safer than finding them nowhere. The cost of a false positive, assuming a predator that wasn't there, was a moment of unnecessary fear. The cost of a false negative, missing a predator that was there, was death. Evolution does not produce accurate brains. It produces brains that are biased towards survival. And the most survivable bias available was this one. Assume something is watching, always. So early humans walked through a world that felt alive in every direction. Not because they were superstitious, not because they were primitive, because their brains were doing something extraordinarily sophisticated, running a continuous threat assessment that treated every unexplained event as potentially intentional. Thunder wasn't a weather system, it was something. Disease wasn't bacteria, it was something. A drought wasn't a climate pattern, it was something. The river flooding, the crops failing, the child dying, the hunt succeeding when it shouldn't have, the hunt failing when it should have succeeded. All of it pointed to the same conclusion the brain kept generating. Something is doing this. Something with a will. Something that can be reasoned with, appeased, communicated with. Something that, if treated correctly, might stop. This is the accident. Nobody decided to create religion. Nobody sat down and designed a supernatural belief system. The human brain generated one automatically, as a side effect of the most useful cognitive tool our species ever developed. Pattern recognition so powerful it found patterns that weren't there. Agency detection so sensitive it found agents behind events that had no agent. Religion wasn't a mistake. It was the inevitable output of a brain that was very, very good at its actual job, but detecting invisible agents was only the first step. Once the brain concluded that something intentional was behind the thunder, behind the drought, behind the disease, the next question was immediate and completely logical. What does it want? And here is where something extraordinary happened. Because humans didn't just detect imagined agents, they tried to communicate with them. The first rituals almost certainly weren't religious in any modern sense. They were practical. An early human group facing a drought didn't have meteorology. They didn't have climate science. They had pattern recognition, and pattern recognition told them the drought had a cause that had a mind. So they did what humans do with any minded entity they need something from. They offered something, they performed something, they spoke to it, and then, sometimes, it rained. Not because the ritual worked, because droughts end, because weather is cyclical, because if you perform a rain ritual every time there's a drought, Eventually you will perform a rain ritual shortly before rain arrives. And the brain, which is built to find patterns, found one. The ritual worked. Do it again. Cognitive scientists call this the illusion of control, the tendency to believe that actions influence outcomes that are actually random. Pigeons in laboratory studies develop the same behaviour. Given food at random intervals regardless of what they do, they begin performing elaborate repetitive movements, as if the movements cause the food. The pigeon doesn't know the food is random. Neither did the early human performing the rain ritual. Neither, if you're being completely honest, does the athlete with the lucky socks who hasn't washed them in 6 weeks. The brain that found control in chaos survived better than the brain that accepted helplessness. Ritual behaviour reduced anxiety. Reduced anxiety improved decision-making. Improved decision-making improved survival. The ritual worked, just not in the way anyone thought. But religion didn't stay a private conversation between one human and the thunder. It spread, and it spread because it solved a second problem that was almost as dangerous as predators. Other people. How do you know the person beside you won't take your food when you're sleeping? How do you know they'll actually help you when the predator arrives? How do you know they're committed to the group and not just taking advantage of it? Shared belief solved this problem in a way nothing else could. When two people believe in the same invisible agents, follow the same rituals, they have made a commitment that goes beyond social contract. They have made a commitment to something they believe is always watching. Research by anthropologist Robin Dunbar found that the complexity of religious belief in human societies correlates directly with group size. Small groups don't need elaborate religion. Large groups too big for every member to know every other member personally, develop complex religious systems that function as social binding technology. Religion didn't just explain the thunder, it made it possible for strangers to trust each other enough to build a civilization. Here is the part that should make you slightly uncomfortable. The brain systems that generated religion thousands of years ago are still running. Right now, in you. Hyperactive agency detection, still active. You still find faces in random patterns. You still feel watched in empty rooms. You still instinctively attribute personality to your car when it won't start. Illusion of control, still active. You still knock on wood. You still have rituals before important events. You still feel that some days are luckier than others, even though you know intellectually that days don't have personalities. The need for a framework that explains suffering, still active. When something terrible happens without explanation, the brain still generates the ancient question, why? Not as a scientific inquiry, as a demand. Something must have caused this. Something must have meant this. These systems were not built for the modern world. They were built for the ancient one, but they are still running, still generating the same outputs, still finding agents, patterns, and meaning in a universe that may contain none. Whether or not that meaning is real is a question religion and science have been arguing about for centuries without resolution. But where the question comes from, that part is settled. It comes from a brain that was trying to stay alive. Somewhere in Africa, a very long time ago, a thunderstorm broke over a group of early humans sheltering under rock. The lightning hit a tree. The tree exploded. Everyone scattered. And afterward, one of them, heart still pounding, hands still shaking, looked up at the sky and felt something that no other animal had ever felt before. The certainty that whatever just happened had been aimed at them. They were wrong, but that feeling, the feeling that the universe is paying attention, that events have authors, that suffering has reasons and miracles have sources, that feeling spread into stories, into rituals, into the most elaborate, most divisive, most comforting, most destructive, most universal thing the human species has ever produced. Every cathedral, every temple, every prayer ever spoken in the dark, began with a brain doing exactly what it was built to do, finding something in the nothing,